Welcome to the ITSP Magazine Podcast Network, a modern, innovative multimedia platform, broadcasting ideas and connecting minds. Every company has a story to tell, from the small startup to the large enterprise, and everything in between. This is one of them. We hope you enjoy this brand story conversation.
Okay.
All right, here we are. Dror. Fantastic seeing you here in Vegas.
It's where we meet.
I know. In front of the amazing, taller this time, modular booth.
Yes. Yes.
It's phenomenal. I love the colors. I think I mentioned that before. You know what I love more than the colors though? And I've said this before, the team inside.
The team is amazing.
The energy in there?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We're very lucky, and we don't take any of it for granted. We have a great team. Being on at a trade show, working a trade show is really hard, and the energy and the impact that they have is phenomenal.
Yeah. And so for those listening and watching, they probably hear a nice buzz. We're on the show floor at Business Hall at Black Hat in Las Vegas. Hacker Summer Camp is upon us, and we're here with Dror and the Coro team. We're going to talk about platforms today.
Platforms it is.
Right?
Yes.
Let's do that. I actually, if I may, I'm going to put these on. Definition of a platform.
Let's go.
It's a fundamental architecture that serves as a foundation or base upon which other applications, processes, and technologies are deployed, managed, run, organized, orchestrated, all that stuff. I think, and we were kind of joking about this table, if this table was built on a platform or a base that was a bunch of sticks loosely put together,
Wouldn't work.
it wouldn't work. We'd be kind of leaning and falling over on each other. So let's, I'm going to put these away so they're not distracting. Let's talk about platforms. And for those listening and watching, they probably hear this term a lot, right? Every organization they're dealing with has a platform of some sort.
Everybody has a platform now. Everybody.
Yes.
It's amazing. It became the buzzword this year, and we built Coro as a platform and have been a platform for 10 years. And it's kind of funny to see everybody now catching up and trying to pretend to be a platform. But really, you know, I view things a little bit differently. I think that what's happening in the industry is buzzword chasing, a lot of it. So a couple of years ago it was ZTNA, everybody was ZTNA, everybody was Zero Trust. Then it was AI, everybody was doing AI. And now it's platform. So everybody's doing platform. Everybody. An email security provider suddenly is a platform. An endpoint protection company is suddenly a platform. That's not a platform.
No. That's integration of stuff that you have, and hopefully it works well together.
Yeah.
So your definition of a platform?
My definition of a platform is an engine that has a set of tools on top of it that work seamlessly together using a single pane of glass, a single endpoint agent for all of them, and of course a single data lake that shares all of the information across all of the different modules. And what we are seeing is folks that are trying to pass their point solution off as a platform and really making the customers creating confusion in the marketplace about platforms.
Yeah. And I think, I don't want to say in fairness, but let's be honest. I mean, if you're a large organization, large security company, and you have a bunch of stuff, and you want to make life easier for your customer, you probably want to build something that brings it all together. The problem is, that's yet another something that the customer has to also deploy and manage and maintain, and it probably very loosely connects stuff together. So if you're doing it after the fact,
if it wasn't built from the ground up with the thinking of automatic integration, of seamless turning on and off of the modules that are on top of the platform, it's not really a platform. What I call it is an invoice platform. Why? Because you get a single invoice from the vendor with all of the stuff that you bought, and I'm not belittling that. That's a good thing. To be able to consolidate and get a single invoice where you probably can negotiate a better price point if you're buying more stuff from the same vendor. But to use some examples out there, when CrowdStrike says that they're a platform, but their email is Proofpoint, how is that a platform? How is that a platform? Yes, so on the invoice, it's going to be a single invoice from CrowdStrike with their endpoint protection parts and Proofpoint as the email, but it's not a platform. The two tools are not fully integrated. They don't talk to each other. They don't share information. They don't inform each other of the actions that the users are taking. A real platform actually has eyes on everything and shares the information across all of the different modules, whether it's the user protection, the endpoint protection, the network, the cloud, the email, the data, all with a single engine running underneath it. That's a platform. And I'm proud to say that we're probably the only player currently that has that in place, in production for years now. And what we have been doing is we have been adding modules yearly to this architecture, and the beauty is that these modules automatically talk to each other. They understand what is happening across the cybersecurity landscape and not in the just email, just endpoint, just data protection. That's not platform.
So we're going to go on a ride here, but let's start. The last point you made when you described it was the data lake.
Yes.
And for me, I mean, it's all important, but for me, that's a big part of this.
Absolutely.
Because in that data set, not sets, data sets, is all the stuff, each part of the system, the whole, everything in the platform needs to do its job at a scale efficiently in the best way possible with little impact on the resources. So let's talk a bit about that data piece of this.
Yeah. So the way we think of this and the way we think platforms should behave is every module that sits on top of the platform performs two roles. Role number one is it's a data collector. It's a sensor that feeds the data into the platform of what it sees. And sometimes what it sees is not a threat, but it's information that might inform another part, another module of, hey, something really unusual is happening there that is impacting me.
Yep.
That's a real platform. So
many times we don't need that data because that piece doesn't care. So we're not going to collect it because why? It's going to overload the data storage.
Data is power.
Yep.
And as I said, the modules have two roles. Role number one is a sensor, feeding data into the data lake. The second one is protection. Get information from the data, whether or not you created that data as a module.
Yep.
So if I am the email is a great example.
Okay.
Because if you look at email protection today, the email providers out there, they're looking at email protection from a malware, ransomware, phishing, spear phishing perspective, right? Which is great.
Yep.
But a BEC attack, business email compromise attack, doesn't start there. It starts with a credentials compromise.
Yep.
So if a different system that doesn't talk to the email platform is looking at credential compromise and doesn't feed the information into a data lake, the email platform will not know it. The email endpoint, the email tools, the email security tools won't know it. In our world, because our credentials information and anomaly detection is feeding into the same data, the email protection looks at it and goes, wait a minute, that user is probably not who they seem they are, and that email that just came out, which looks completely legit, is not legit, and therefore I'm flagging it and I'm taking action.
Yep.
If you're not a real platform, if all of those different sensors are not feeding the same engine that makes decisions, then you're a tool set. You're a bunch of tools that happen to be on the same invoice and probably are using 4 different endpoint agents that now I, as the customer or as the MSP partner of ours, need to deploy and maintain and manage and deal with interactions between those agents. A real platform is modules that talk to one engine, one data lake, that present themselves on a single pane of glass and manifest themselves on a single endpoint agent, regardless of the device they're on.
Yep. So talk to me about, so there's the data in and out. We know email data is not the same as credential data, not the same as firewall feed, right? When there's somebody who has a bunch of parts and they're pulling them together and they're trying to get this data from the device, from the sensor or whatever, and then into a place where it can be accessed and retrieved. There's many times a challenge in understanding what's in the data and how to actually make proper use of it. And so in my old world, it was a connector that would take some data and transform it into something else. And in that, you probably lose some context. Or
absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about how you kind of maintain integrity across all of this.
So the whole idea is the collection of data happens natively at the sensor. So at our email protection module or at our endpoint protection module or at our data governance module, they collect the data and they feed all the data into one very, very large data lake. On top of that, there is an anomaly-based detection platform that is part of the engine that looks at anomalies that are happening. So we're not looking at the data from the perspective of if then that, but rather we're looking at this as an unstructured, unsupervised machine learning environment that looks at the data and understands when something anomalous is happening, and then informs the appropriate engine, the appropriate module of that anomaly. So if it sees an anomaly that starts at the credentials theft and continues in email, it's going to raise a flag to these 2 modules, and these 2 modules will now take action, which again means that the operator doesn't need to spend time chasing events.
Right.
That's one. And 2, the architecture here eliminates time criticality. You and I both know that when an event happens, by the time an operator acts on it, that time is critical. A machine reacts in milliseconds. And therefore, we removed that time criticality issue from responding to critical alerts.
It's funny because in the last 2 weeks, we've been part of Black Hat actually, we've had a number of conversations around metrics and what does it mean to succeed with a security system and a program. And time is critical, but the decision that's made, at least in my perspective based on the conversation I had, is equally critical. If you make a decision that's bad, a false positive, and you respond in a certain way, or if you set a firewall rule that doesn't, it may stop that particular attack, but then affect other parts of the business, you're now reacting in different ways. So there's a whole chain of things, not just can I respond more quickly, but that's important as well. So talk to me about kind of the response. I want to speak to the MSPs now, who probably struggled with this for years, trying to find a solution that actually helps them respond. Right? Well, first identify and respond in time, but in a way that's appropriate for the business,
Yeah.
not just appropriate for the technologies they happen to pick.
So, as you know, we are a channel-first company, and most of our revenue comes from our partners, MSPs, MSSPs, VARs, and so forth. And the one challenge they've had was, even if they had built a security stack from point solutions, and they're actually the platform, they become the platform because they're masking the complexity from the end customer, but they need to manage that complexity. Managing that complexity creates an enormous OpEx cost for them, which then they need to pass on to their customer. When you're looking at the mid-market or a small business, they just can't absorb that cost. So what happens? My MSP partner needs to make one of two choices. Either not cater to that huge market, mid-market and small businesses, which are actually the majority of the businesses out there today, or offer them a sliver of the platform they've built, because that's all they can afford. We come to the table and we say, no more. You can actually offer them the entire cybersecurity solution, starting with user, endpoint, network, cloud, email, data, everything in one platform at a price that they can afford, because we remove the OpEx cost. Because managing Coro is so much easier and so much less time consuming that your team can now support so many more of these smaller businesses out there without adding to your OpEx. Very different model.
So there's OpEx in terms of just getting it all to work together.
But also the team cost. The largest cost is actually the team. For an MSP, once they've built the stack, that's sunk cost, right? But then there's the team that needs to operate it. And every customer that you onboard in that complex virtual platform that you created is very, very costly because of the alerts and the operational costs associated with that. But with us being a real platform that does all the work, not all the work, but the vast majority of the event chasing on its own, through very smart automation, it basically means that you don't have that enormous onboarding cost of a new customer.
Exactly.
And that actually opens the door to a huge revenue stream that you've basically not been able to address effectively and profitably before. So most MSPs shied away from offering a full cybersecurity stack to their customers, to their SMBs and mid-market customers, and we are changing that economic equation.
Well, they deserve the same protections, the same SLAs.
Absolutely.
The same thing. So
these guys are the backbone of the economy, the mid-market and small business. And the fact that this entire industry around us has neglected them, has overlooked them, and has been trying to shove enterprise product down their throat is shameful. We're here to right this wrong, basically.
I love it.
And we're doing it, and our growth is showing that we're doing it in the right way.
So let's keep talking to the MSSPs.
Sure.
Because we're about to wrap here. So I want to leave them with something they can think about. Are there any signals? I mean, I'm sure they all feel the pain. Are there any pain points that you think would resonate with them, those that are listening and watching? Are there any signals that say you may have built this virtual platform, but if you look at how you're doing things, you might spot that this is happening, and you can fix that. That's not what you have to deal with, right? You don't have to settle there. So are any signals or signs or anything you want to share?
I think the main signal is when your SMB or mid-market customer comes to you and says, I have this new requirement by either regulation or by cyber insurance or by the supply chain I'm in. Right. Because normally our guys are somewhere in the middle or the bottom of the supply chain. and the folks at the top of the supply chain are now dictating cybersecurity mandates. So when this guy comes to you and says, hey, I need to now comply with this or do that, this is an opportunity to tell them, don't worry, I got you covered, I have Coro for you.
Yep. And I have an SLA to back it up.
And I have an SLA to back it up.
It's fantastic. Well, Dror, it's always great to chat with you.
Always a pleasure to speak with you.
I love this story, and I love what you're doing, and I like that you're righting this wrong, as you said it. And I hope more and more small and medium businesses get to enjoy the value of Coro.
And the partners that serve them.
And the partners that serve them, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So thanks everybody for this brand story, and hopefully you'll stay tuned. Please do connect with Dror and the team. Trust me, you'll appreciate the energy, and it all comes back to the great platform that they built and the solution that they have to offer through their partners. Dror.
And you can find us at coro.net, CORO.net.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will come back for more brand stories on ITSP Magazine. If you want to share your company's brand story, go to itspmagazine.com and explore our advertising options to learn more. Remember to share this podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues, and stay tuned for more brand stories as we continue our journey toward redefining cybersecurity, technology, and society.